So I had a perfect childhood. If you could take a picture of a childhood and hang it on the wall, that was my childhood. And then in my adult life, I started using methamphetamines and became addicted. And so my entire adult life, I was addicted to drugs and part of a gang and lived a ruthless life until I went to prison, and God used prison to change my life. So I've been to prison twice. The first time I went to prison was for organized retail theft. We were stealing, it was me. I was stealing lots of merchandise from distribution centers and freight and all kinds of stuff. And I got arrested for organized retail theft and went to state jail for about 9 months. And then I got out, and I did pretty well for about 6 months, but then you run into an old friend. It's people, places, things, definitely, that will trigger those things. And I moved back to Amarillo around the same old people, started doing the same old thing again, got right back into doing drugs. And the second time I went to prison, I was high, very high, and my boyfriend didn't come. We stayed in a motel. My boyfriend didn't show up when he was supposed to. So I went looking for him, and I found him in the vehicle with another female. And they weren't just sitting in the vehicle, they were in the act of. Uh-huh. And I lost my mind. I rammed my car into their car repeatedly. And the cops were called. I left, of course, and I was on the run for that happened in September. I was on the run till December, and I finally went to jail for 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. They called my car a weapon because I was repeatedly hitting their car with my car and then fled. So I got sentenced to 2 years in prison. You have to do a minimum of 2 years if it's aggravated, so I had to do my entire sentence, which is okay because if you do any kind of scientific research on methamphetamines, it takes about 2 years for your mind and your body to get back to normal. And God knew that. God knew that I needed to be put away for at least 2 years, completely locked away from people and dope where I couldn't get it to get my mind back to come back to normal.
What was that pivotal moment where you feel you started to lead yourself down a wrong path?
We were at a party and it was introduced to me, and we tried it and I loved it. It was the best feeling I'd ever had in my life. A week later, and as we were using drugs, we started going to more parties. And a week later, we went to another party, and that's where I met my second husband. I knew him for 7 days and married him, and that was the beginning of the spiral of my life. Everything revolved around meth, getting more meth, doing more meth, making more money to get more meth. It all revolved around doing drugs completely, and money and drugs. 3 years I tried to maintain and have a normal life and not go down that road and basically live a double life because I didn't want my family to know anything that I was doing, but yet I was in the middle of that lifestyle. So I was trying to have a normal life and yet in that drug lifestyle at the same time. So probably about 3 to 5 years before I started to really let go of normalcy and just be submerged in that lifestyle. And the first time I went to jail, I started using drugs in 1996, and the first time I went to jail was in 2004. So about 8 years whenever I really started to hit rock bottom. But even the first time I went to jail wasn't my rock bottom. It continued on for a lot more years after that. It just gets tiring. I was worn out, like trying to do both. And finally it just came to the point where the drugs were more important than anything else. Like at one point I didn't care if anybody knew that I was on drugs because at the beginning I was trying not to let anybody know and just do it on the down low. But then it came to the point where everybody already knows I've been to jail. They know I have a problem. So screw it. I'm just going to go do what I want to do.
What were some of the negative effects that you experienced from abusing meth?
Sleep deprivation was a huge negative catalyst that ruined my life. It wasn't necessarily the drugs, it was the sleep deprivation, not ever sleeping, getting any rest, and your mind is just continually moving and moving and moving, and then you basically drive yourself nuts from not getting any sleep. Things just become distorted whenever you don't get any sleep. Like you see things differently, you hear things differently, almost hallucinogenic. Meth isn't a hallucinogenic, but the sleep deprivation can definitely cause you to hallucinate. So I would think people were saying things and doing things that they weren't doing. I do have a very vivid memory of one time. I was driving down the highway. It was about midnight. I was going from Amarillo back home to Spearman. I'd been up for a few days, and all of a sudden I felt like there were people riding their bicycles down the middle of the highway. Slammed on my brakes, threw my passenger into the windshield, and we were spinning out because I was trying not to hit these people that were on bicycles, and there was nothing there.
What was being in prison like?
Well, you are treated like you're a number in prison. Like you don't have a name, and you're basically like herded cattle. That's how you're treated. And I understand why they have to do that also, because there's a lot of people there who have committed all kinds of crimes, and so they have to herd you in a certain way. But you don't have a voice in prison. You have no control over anything. They tell you what to do every second of every minute of every day. It can be very dangerous, especially whenever you have love affairs going on in prison. Like I saw on my way to chow one day, you walk in straight lines, and we were passing another line like this, and one of the girls in our line jumped out and attacked another girl and bit her ear off because it was all about girlfriends. Her girlfriend was having an affair with this other girl, and she attacked her and bit her ear off, and there was blood. It was crazy. One thing I really experienced that was really crazy and scary is we were all in this like dormitory, and it's really hot because there's no AC in prison, like none. You have to wet your sheets and lay on the ground and do whatever you can. There's big fans, but there is no AC. It's hot, very hot, probably the hottest place on the planet. And we were lined up to go in the restroom, and there was a big snake coiled up in one of the toilets. That was crazy. There was a kitchen boss at one of the units I was on who his thing was to intimidate females, young females, I guess, and have affairs with them. And there was one female that he impregnated. She had been there 6 months, but was only 3 months pregnant. So that does happen. And in fact, whenever I was in jail and feeling completely hopeless, like my entire family turned their backs on me. They were tired of watching me kill myself. And I don't blame them. They couldn't watch me kill myself any longer. And whenever my first initial phone call from my attorney, they offered me 18 years in prison. And I went back to my cell and was crying to God, God, please don't let me do 18 years in prison. If that's your will for me, I will do it every single day, but I don't want to do 18 years in prison. Please, Lord, I trust you. I trust in your will for me, but I don't want that to be your will for me. Yeah. And 30 minutes later, the guard came back and said, you have another phone call from your attorney. I got back on the phone with my attorney, and he said, I don't know who you prayed to or what you prayed for, but they came back and said, if you'll sign today, they'll give you 2 years. So I know there's a God. That was completely God.
What led up to the moment that turned your life around, and how do you stay in recovery?
The minute I got on my knees and said, God, I can't do it anymore. I cannot. I don't know how to change. And I knew that jail was the only thing that would make me stop doing drugs. I couldn't do it on my own. And I know that he put me there so that I would get them completely out of my system and become me again. But they say that meth, there's no physical withdrawals, but for me there were. It is mental, but everything mental affects you physically. And man, I couldn't even get out of bed to go to chow. I mean, I literally slept for 3 months straight. And then whenever I got up, I knew that was going to be right then my life was not going to be the same. Like it was going to change at that moment. And I got on my knees and said, please help me, God. And he did. He changed me. Because of my gang affiliation, I was put in a segregated cell. I wasn't allowed into general population. And so I spent a lot of time by myself in a cell. And it was just hopelessness, aloneness, and scared, basically. Yeah. And had nobody but God. From the time I gave my life to Christ and asked him to please deliver me, just deliver me from this hell that I've created on my own. Absolutely no cravings for for meth. I started reading the Bible every single day, and started trying to infuse what God was telling me about me into my life, into my mind, and just trying to see myself as God saw me, and completely changed into a new creation in Christ. Like His Word tells you, once you surrender and you accept God into your life, then you are a new creation, and I feel like I am a complete new creation from that time, that very moment in that jail cell. So my main concern when I came out of prison was staying grounded in Christ and not to go back to that old way of life. Because it's real easy when you're in jail to not get to the drugs or get to this. It's because you're not really in the world, so to speak. You're in prison. So to me, my big concern upon my release was how am I gonna stay grounded in Christ with the big, bad, ugly world going on around me? So I applied to a faith-based transitional home called Grace Place Properties in Duncanville. They accepted me, and so from prison I went to Duncanville. I didn't go back to my old home. I have no contact with any of my old friends or acquaintances or anybody in that lifestyle. And God again used Grace Place to help me stay grounded in Christ while living in the world. That was the biggest thing. And while I was at Grace Place, I found Cornbread Hustle.
How does your life today compare to your life in the past?
Oh, it's night and day. It is night and day. And even in my addiction, I would look at people and think, how are they up? How are they up out of bed, not having to do drugs? I wish I could be out of bed and being normal and not having to be on drugs right now, because it came to the point where if I didn't have drugs, I wasn't normal. Like I could not even get out of bed. And I would look at other people and think, wow, how are they? I wish I was back to that place where I didn't have to have drugs or any kind of stimulant to help myself get out of bed and just function as a normal human being. Now I have that. Yeah. That's the biggest difference. I don't have to rely on drugs just to wake up, just to get out. I mean, I'm living proof that every single thing that happens in your life, God will use all things for my good and His glory. So even my past, He is using for my good, because I can relate to everybody who comes to us for a job. Like, I've been where you've been. I know your struggles, but hey, it doesn't stop there. I can give people hope and encouragement, and that's amazing to me.
Hey guys, it's Sherry. At Cornbread Hustle, we help people coming out of prison and people in recovery find meaningful employment. Head to our website and check out our jobs, or follow us on social media. See you in the next video.